This is a podcast on how to grow on Twitch. If you're a Twitch streamer, if you're not a Twitch streamer, you can still learn a heck of a lot on how to grow in life because we have absolutely wonderful people in here and a very positive environment that you're able to take an introspective look into both of our minds and see what works for you, what doesn't. And I always say maybe you can learn a thing or two from this podcast, whether you're just a person trying to get through life or whether you're a Twitch streamer in general. This is still beneficial to each and every person that watches because it's an introspective look on not just a positive streamer, but a positivity mindset when it comes to individuality. If you can learn something or feel inspired, then at the end of the day, it's all worth it to me.
I need to find something, and this is what I'm trying to do, find something that shows who I am in a funny light, but also in the caring light, to try to find that the proper community for my streams. So it's kind of interesting in that because I'm still trying to figure that out. I was never expecting that to happen. I'm like, oh man, now I got to figure something out.
Let's talk a little bit about what sort of energy you like to possess. So what community would you be trying to grasp at that point?
I think my ideal community to grasp is one that is very, I want to say, kind in nature, one that is understanding, no trolls is ideally what I'd like. I do get trolls, and honestly they are really fun because I think at this point we kind of play with each other you know what I mean, we bounce back and forth a little bit, so it's kind of like a fun banter. I want to find the community that's caring, that's just genuine people, but also has that funny, it's not always going to be absolutely hilarious. It's not going to always be giggling and, screaming, but it's one that we can kind of bounce back and forth. It's more of a communication, more of a talk while I play a game than it is for us to only talk about the game. I want to know the community. I want to get to know everybody. It's one of those. And sometimes people aren't really into that type of community, so I completely get that. And I find that streaming, you kind of pull in people of like minds. So it's one of those things that I've found for the most part that everybody kind of jives with each other. There's not really been any conflict because I feel like and I think I remember hearing this, and I feel like I'm going to butcher this quote. The vibes you give is like the tribe you get. So you have to make sure you're providing the right vibes to everybody in order to gather the same type of tribe. The people that come into my chat, I cannot thank them enough. I cannot say that I'm happy enough for them to be there. They're so like-minded. They feel like family to me. And that's what I'm looking for, is that family community vibe.
Would you say for the most part that you found it so far?
Yeah, I think I have. It did take me a while because when I first started streaming, I wasn't putting out my full authentic self. I was very reserved. So that was something I had to kind of work toward, was to put out my more authentic self. After a little bit of trial and error, I was able to gain a lot of people that have the similar mentality, same vibes.
I like how you said you were so reserved at the beginning. Why is that?
I think it's because as soon as you put yourself out there, it's like you're stepping up on stage and expecting people to watch and not make fun of you. You're waiting for that person to be like, you suck, all of those negative things. So whenever you put yourself out there, I feel like you put out your most reserved self because you want to kind of test the waters a little bit. So I think it was just more of testing the waters until I realized, screw it, and I jumped. It was at that moment I realized that being your more authentic self was the best thing that you can do, because no matter what, nobody else is going to be identical to you. Just do it. Don't be the same person as somebody else. You'll definitely gain way more people of like minds than if you try to reserve yourself.
What sort of got you into streaming and sparked your interest with it?
Back about 2 years, I started to not feel so great. I was starting to have a medical issue, and I was going to go to the doctors. I promised myself, I was like, oh, whenever my physical comes up, whatever, I'd bring it up to the doctors. But unfortunately, I didn't make it that far. I ended up blacking out. I got myself a concussion, and I tried to hide it. Unfortunately, it turns out you can't hide those things from your company. They went ahead and they told me I had to go on leave until my concussion was healed. So essentially, I just had to spend a week in my apartment, laying on my couch. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't read books. I couldn't be on my phone because that's more screen interaction that doesn't help with a concussion.
Yeah.
And at that point, I just kind of thought about my life for a week, just laid there. And I consider that one of the best things that happened to me is the concussion, because I feel like it literally knocked some sense into me.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
I like how you put that.
I started watching David Dobrik vlogs. And I realized, I was like, he has so much fun. Like, he's not worrying about a corporate job. He's not worrying about somebody else telling him what to do. He's just kind of pushing himself into this position where all he can do is he has fun and he makes money.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept thinking about it. And I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm going to start vlogging. Like, it's gonna blow up.
Mm-hmm.
All of that stuff. Bought myself a GoPro. And my friend was like, why don't you just try streaming? Like, you already have everything to stream. Just try it once or twice, see how it goes. Worst comes to worst, you don't like it, go to vlogging. Now we're here, almost 2 years later. I've been streaming and absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Haven't stopped ever since then. So definitely, I think I found that right path. It's just amazing to be able to see that I can go ahead and potentially create a career out of something where I don't have to live with that like corporate life. Like during that time for me, during that whole week, I went ahead and I thought about it, and I'm a very big numbers person.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about the whole, I got out of college at 20. I got myself a career. I'm already about 7-8 years into my career now. I'm doing IT. And I thought about it and I was like, okay, I get to retire at, I think, what's the age? Like
62.
62, yeah. And the average death year or like age is 72.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I was like, okay, so let me calculate. If I start work at 18, if I start making money, if the average salary is this, it came out to like somewhere around $3 million.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about that and I was like, would I trade my life, the one thing I only have one shot at, would I trade that for $3 million just to make somebody else richer whenever I could be doing that for myself?
Yes.
And it just was a no-brainer question. I was just like, why am I making somebody else, happy with money, with all of these different things, so they don't have to work as hard?
Yes.
When I could go ahead and be putting that energy into myself and living a more fulfilled life where I don't have to wait until I'm almost on my deathbed to enjoy freedom.
100%.
So, I don't know. It's such a weird, I feel like, backstory to why I started streaming, but I'm really glad it did happen, though.
You see so many young streamers out there, and it's not that they're not going to be successful, because like there are definitely some that definitely flourish. There are definitely some that get millions of views, but there's a lot of young streamers out there without the experience behind it. And I really feel that life experience gets you to this point where you can actually say, okay, I'm thoroughly ready to stream because I feel like I've learned quite a lot from my job, because every streamer out there pretty much has a job. No one goes in expecting to be a full-time streamer because financially it's just not viable. You can't pay your bills, you can't do this and that, at least in the beginning. It's just like any business you're trying to start up. I really feel like that experience is sort of what brings everyone to streaming, rather than streaming bringing someone the experience. How do you feel about that?
I 100% agree. I think it's one of those things, and I thoroughly believe in this, is your mindset has to be in the right place. The younger generation that hasn't gotten that work experience yet, that hasn't gotten kind of like the taste of life outside of school and whatnot, I think they look at it as an easy job. I think they look at it as, I can just play video games for a living.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have that mindset of, I want to live my life the way I want to live my life. Like, I think that their mindset's there. It's just not in the right direction. It's one of those things. Mindset is completely everything. What you think is what you'll project. So if your thought process is, well, I'm going to go stream, I'm going to make a whole bunch of money, you're going to come off as a money hungry individual. Whereas if you want to create a community, you want to create something that becomes a career, that becomes something that flourishes on its own, you have to have that mindset of, you know what, it may take me 5 years of basically working 2 full-time jobs, but I'm going to get there eventually. and it's going to be amazing when I do.
Is there a cap for you? You know, if streaming simply just wasn't working out, is there like a year or something where you're saying by like maybe year 6, if this isn't taken off, like should I start something new? Does that ever happen to you?
I will say this, I have had doubt and thought that to myself, like, when do I know that it's just like, it's obviously not working to just throw in the towel? At the same time, I kind of have the same thought of, I'm like, well, you know what, in the long run, if I'm enjoying myself, why not? Why not just continue?
Yeah.
And if anything, and I have put this thought in my head, I'm like, even if this doesn't work out, it has given me something that I've never been able to find somewhere else, which is confidence and things like that in myself, to put myself out there. Even if none of this works, I'm still gaining things that are helping me personally, as well as making, you know, communication, making long-lasting friendships with people that I never would have met if I never hit the go live button. I don't think I have any number like that, but if I ever feel as if I am becoming, if my quality of life is starting to become less because I'm pushing myself too hard in streaming or whatever, I'll try to make more of a balance, but I don't see myself ever having like a hard, if it doesn't happen by now, I'm just done. Everybody grows at their own time type of thing.
So tell me a little bit about how best do you interact with your community? Do you find Discord to be the best source to interact with your community, or do you find streams the best way to interact with your community, or anything else?
I try to make like a little mix of both. Try my best to read messages, and I know my chat will always come at me because I missed something. They're like, I've posted it 3 times, but I do try to do both. I every single morning I try to say good morning, see how the community's doing. I actually have a Minecraft server now for the community, so that way we can also play games when I'm not streaming. This is kind of like a nice community builder, but I try to do a little bit of both. I will say I do need to get better at other social medias, like posting on there more frequently.
Would you say you're growing at the pace that you want to grow at?
Yeah, I will say I had a bit of a setback, and I think that was because of my own fault. Just because I was not in the right mental headspace, I wasn't giving myself the amount of breaks I needed. I wasn't doing as much as I needed to progress the way I needed to. I will say I have grown a decent amount. I think that I am on the right track. I do have like a goal I set myself for the next year, but
that's important.
It is, and that's the thing, is I think that having that goal helps push people in the right direction. So I am growing in the right direction. I have noticed growth recently, which is absolutely amazing. And I know that it's kind of in the sense of like Rome didn't, you know, it wasn't a one-day project type of thing. Even though I just butchered that, that's fine.
No, I was actually thinking whenever you butchered that, I'm like, wow, she's saying it in a different way. That's you know, you're not just saying it like everyone else, which concludes that you're a person that, as a content creator, you produce change. And that's exactly that quote, that you didn't say it the way that it was. And that's what I thought right before you said you butchered that.
Well, I was like, wait a second, that's not the quote at all. It's like, but you know what, I got the point across.
Yeah, you definitely did.
I have a friend that's a partner. She said it's taken her years. Every single partner I've ever talked to, it has taken them years.
Yeah.
And I remind myself, this is only the beginning of the journey.
Yes.
Like, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You have to take those things and you have to just keep building onto them, see what works, see what doesn't work. So I found something that didn't work for me. I'm slowly pushing it together. And I think there is a lot of growth, and I'm still trying to figure out the growth pattern so I can keep bringing more people into my community and make it just more wholesome, a bigger lump sum of tater tots, as I like to call them. My Final Fantasy name is PersephoneDemeter. It was one of those things, it's kind of a silly, I love Greek mythology, and Stephanie is my real name.
Okay.
Persephone. It just kind of fit together. I was like, oh, that makes sense. They kind of go together just because they both link back to Final Fantasy 14, but not completely. I don't think Persephone enjoyed tater tots. I don't know. I don't think they ever put that in the stuff.
It's in the lore. It's in the deep lore.
Yeah.
If you've watched any YouTube videos.
Exactly. If people did not know, Persephone and Demeter both enjoyed tater tots. So the Twitch name came from the fact that I love Greek mythology. I learned about Greek mythology back in high school, was reading the Percy Jackson series, and I want to say I was like 18 or 19 when I came up with this name. And my siblings try to get me to play Final Fantasy 14. And one thing that drives me insane is whenever I log on to a game and somebody has like the weirdest name that doesn't make any sense. Like their name's like Cat Litter or something weird. I don't know. It just it bothers me. I'm like, how can you go into something being like, oh yeah, my character's Cat Litter? I was like, I need to figure out a cool name, something that really like sticks. And I thought about it and I was like, I love Greek mythology. So I went with Persephone because it sounded like Stephanie. And then the only other Greek mythology name that went with that was Demeter, which just so happens to be her mother.
How do you feel about schedules as opposed to just getting on in terms of building a community?
I feel as if schedules are so important. I feel like that's one thing people overlook so much. And I understand that like it's hard to have a schedule because that means you have to be accountable for at that exact time every single time. But it's one of those things that it's kind of like watching a TV show in that sense, or tuning into a YouTube channel to watch the newest episode. If you don't know what time it's released, people aren't going to come by. They're going to wait until the notification, maybe a day later, and be like, oh, okay, they were live. I think that schedules are extremely important because people know when to come back. People know, oh, this is what she's doing now, or this is what he's doing now. So I think it's really cool, really important to have that. I feel as if there is a very professional aspect of Twitch as well when it comes down to it. If your main goal is to become a partner and whatnot, you're going to have to show, like, you have to show it like a job. You have to have that same core aspect, that same core values, which is to show up to it, to put in all of the effort and keep going.
I really feel like some people, now there are some people out there that can literally just be themselves on and off stream without providing more energy. But I really feel like me off stream, I'm like 10 times less energy than I am on stream. How do you feel about that?
This was actually kind of that transition to me becoming less reserved. I was way more quiet on stream. And then as soon as I get off stream, I was like a ball of energy. One of my friends actually pointed out, he's like, you just gotta you gotta let loose. You just gotta do it. For me, I feel like I 100% carry almost the same exact energy on and off stream. The only difference I've ever been able to notice is that my tone of voice. So I have a more, I don't want to say high pitch, but a more enthused voice.
Yeah.
Compared to off stream where it may be a little bit more monotone.
What has been the most successful streaming lesson for you regarding back to your life outside of streaming? So what have you learned on stream that you feel like things work better off stream now for you?
I think the one thing that I've learned is that I have to be more outgoing with myself. Like, I've always been a very reserved person, and it kind of took me realizing that I can't be afraid of what I'm doing. I have to put myself out there, and no matter what, and even just like in normal life, that's what you have to do. You can't just be blending into the shadows. You kind of have to take that step out. You have to be unique. And I feel like there's been so many times I've just kind of blended into the shadows before because of how much I don't know, I don't want to stand out. Doing streaming, I've kind of realized that no matter what, like, it's who I am, it's my personality. I might as well just let it shine no matter where. The way you now do streaming, like, you've kind of absorbed some of the personality or some of the ways you act on stream. They just come out everywhere now.
Yes.
So like, it's one of those things that I used to not talk as much, things like that. So now I just talk all the time off stream. I'm more enthused. I want to talk to people now. So it's one of those things that I learned those on stream, which then actually helped carry them off stream.
Yeah.
Which is really cool because honestly, I needed it. I needed to be more vocal with who I was. And that's just part of growing as a person. I will say this, I've never thought that I was ever going to be the type of person when somebody does small banter to me in a grocery store, I actually talk back and I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's really funny and all that stuff. I've become that person because I'm so used to just picking up on the conversation and going with it.
Yeah.
That I've become more of a people person, even though I'm an introvert. It is so weird to see like streamer me come out in public and I'm like, oh man, I definitely just did that.
Isn't it funny how it took you to stream to literally have, you know, small talk conversations with people that you actually enjoy now? And who would have knew you would have enjoyed it had you not been streaming?
And that's why I said, even if streaming doesn't work out, which I'm praying it does, like I know it will.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that into motion. I know it will work out. It's one of those things that I needed to grow like that as a person. So no matter what, I'm still taking that as a life lesson that I needed to know, that I needed to learn about myself. No matter what, streaming is always going to positively impact me, whether it works out or it doesn't.
I see how so many people get sucked into go to your job, eat, take care of kids, whatever. If you have kids, sleep, produce the same thing the next day.
Yep.
And there's too many people in that cycle. I think we need to change that as a society, but I'm so fortunate to be able to be granted this chance to be able to do what I like to do, what I prefer to do.
I agree with you. And that's one of the things, like, I've had long conversations with my parents, and I'm pretty sure half the time they just, don't listen, but it's nice to have that person there. But it's one of those, like, I look at my family as well, and I see that, like, my grandpa, he went to work, he never missed a day, he, did all these things. My dad, he did the same thing, and everybody tells me it's just the way it is. But it doesn't have to be that way. Like, it doesn't have to be where you have to dread going to work, where you have to do all these things. And I'm with you. And that's the thing is, like, when I tell my parents, I'm like, listen, I had this many people come to my stream yesterday. Even my mom, just seeing me interact with the cashier blew her mind that I could make a connection like that with somebody.
Yeah.
And make a friend just based off of something I do online, because their generation just simply doesn't understand what streaming is, how that can connect people.
I think it's important to know how you presented it to your parents. They seem to be coming from a traditional standpoint.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. I went ahead and I told them, I was like, oh, hey, by the way, I play video games online. And they've always known I played games like online, but they never knew that I played it where people could see me and I talked to them. So they were like, they were really questioning. They're like, so what's going on? I was like, so people join a website where they can watch me play games. And they're like, well, why wouldn't they just play the game? I'm like, but it's one of those things that you also get the communication. And I explained it to them in this aspect. If you could watch TV and talk to the people on the TV at the same time, wouldn't that bring more of a connection? I've had to explain it to them like that. And I still have tried to get my parents, and even my grandparents don't quite grasp the concept. I get paid to play video games online and people watch me. Like a free service people pay for. And they're just like, so people have paid you to play a video game? And I was like, yes. And I always kind of rub it in their face just a little bit, because they've always had the mindset of, well, you're not going to make money doing that. Like you need to grow up. You need to do all of those things. I'm like, yeah. So what's that thing about not making money doing that?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a fun little banter between my family.
I think more people need to see Twitch and streaming and growing like we're doing as streamers. I think they need to see that more of a business. You're still producing yourself to the world in a creative aspect, just like someone was doing if they were to say, I mean, in retrospect to me, opening a gym. You're still trying to build a community. You're still trying to wrap a lot of people around your group and produce business out of it, whether it's financially or whether it's inspiring and motivating and making people happy and helping others grow as well. Like, you're still trying to produce that. If they only saw it like that, people just see it as, like you said, playing video games and talking to chat. It sounds so simple, but at the end of the day, there's a lot that goes into it. I think that's a great growing experience is being able to lead and inspire, which is why what we go back to our last conversation on finding the experience before you experience Twitch, as opposed to finding Twitch and then gaining the experience. If you find the experience as a leader outside of Twitch, you're now leading a community on Twitch, so you better have that leadership experience or else you're never going to take off. Was there ever a time when you did something in your past relatable to streaming, but it wasn't exactly streaming? You know what I mean? Because I had music previous to streaming, so I have things on YouTube revolving around music and trying to produce content out of that, and it just didn't work out for whatever reason. I think it didn't work out because everything in life brought me to this moment here. Is there anything that you potentially could match up to streaming that would be similar, relatable?
Back when I was like 14, 15, I want to say, I went ahead and I started a YouTube channel. It was a vlogging channel. I literally vlogged almost every single day, and it was the most cringy, obnoxious thing. I still to this day refuse to give out any information regarding it. And I still have the login. On occasion, I'll go watch the videos just because I think, you know, looking back on the past is really funny. They were so cringy, but just looking back at it, I had so much confidence back then, and I don't know where I found it. I'm glad I did. I would go to parks and things like that, and I would record people making like balloon animals and like roller skating, and I'm like, what? And I remember going there with like this little, it was one of those like handheld cameras that you did this and like the screen would flip out.
Yeah.
And I would record with that, and then I would spend hours in what was it, Windows XP's Movie Maker.
Yeah.
Just editing these videos, thinking they were complete masterpieces. So it's one of those things. It was kind of funny because I did those very extremely cringy videos back then. I laugh about them now, but they have kind of helped me now because I see who I am now kind of peeking out in those videos, but like a decade ago. Those are embarrassing. Those are.
What have you found is the greatest way to achieve, you know, that follow or that subscriber? What's the greatest way to achieve further engagement on Twitch in your mind?
This is something I've struggled with because of the fact that there have been ups and downs.
Yes.
I think every single person deals with ups and downs. What I try to do is I try to have conversations that people can come in on, or if people come in, I try to have a question sometimes in my title and whatnot to try to keep things engaged. If people come in, they see like the nice conversations, us joking, us having fun. I think the other thing that really helps is I have a channel point reward that's like dad joke and pickup line, which are super low on the points. So essentially when somebody comes in, they get so many points. I think it's enough that they can just go ahead and click dad joke.
Yeah.
And I will tell them a dad joke as soon as they come in, type of thing. So it's kind of cool in that aspect. But to keep people engaged, I try to do something like every single month I'll do a community sub night where we'll all get into the Discord, we'll watch a movie, we'll play some games. It's not streamed or anything, so it's basically exclusive to subs. Kind of makes it easier for everybody to have that community vibe, the community feeling. But yeah, so I just try my best to have a very positive outlook on streaming, try to be as positive, energetic as I physically can, throw some funny moments in there. So that way, when new people come in, then that way they feel more enticed to say something, to say hi, to try to be part of the community. Maybe people don't realize that streamers also struggle when it comes to like mental health and things like that. But like walking into the room, looking at the wall, being like, I made a difference. Like this is what brings me back to that positive vibes whenever I'm feeling down.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize how much it means to streamers. There's one thing that keeps it humbles me so much and brings so much positive vibes to myself, is that time is the only currency you can never get back. Like money, you can get back, all of those things. And the fact that people spend 3 to 5 hours in my stream 4 days a week blows my mind, because that's something they'll never get back. They're spending their life with me, essentially.
Yes.
And to me, that's just, to think that, at one given point in time, I was just somebody from a small town, and now I have 15, 20 people watching me all the time, cheering me on to get better, to get bigger, to do better things. It's just insane to me to see that support group kind of grow and thrive, and just the way they support everybody even is absolutely amazing.
Since you possess both of these on stream, I decided I would give you a devil's advocate question to see which one you would want more of. If you had to choose one, which one would be more significant regarding your streams? Intelligence or humor?
I would have to say humor. Intelligence is nice. I feel as if humor is one of those things that everybody connects to. I feel like it helps alleviate some of the things going on within the world. I always try to make my community one of those things where you come in, you don't have to worry about politics, you don't have to worry about religion, none of that stuff.
Yes.
Humor is one of those things everybody can collectively come in, laugh, have fun. Whereas intelligence, it's nice and all, but I feel like I would rather foster a place where people can come in, relax, laugh, than it just being big brain plays. And
use your stream as a distraction mechanism. in other words.
Exactly. I try to go between them, and I will say this for I just know that people just looking at the chat when they're like, it's right there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what you're pointing at.
Mhm.
Like, just explain to me. Give me a diagram.
Yeah.
So I feel like there can be way more humor involved than intelligence. You realize I basically read a novel while playing a game,
Yeah.
keeping all of these different conversations in check. And you wonder why I didn't find a hat in Little Nightmares 2. Like,
Yeah.
that's the reason why. And I'm perfectly fine with it. But it's just one of those funny things. It's like, I try my best to keep everything in check and everything in line. But yeah, unless you're a streamer, I don't feel like people quite grasp the concept that you have to do so many things like multitasking. It is kind of crazy to look at it from like behind the curtains.
I feel that even since day one, part of why we're reserved isn't just because we're experimenting so much as it is we're simply just trying to find a balance that we can't find yet until we find the experience first.
I don't think people realize that either. It's not just even that you're balancing like playing the game, reading chat, you're also balancing your energy. You have to balance the conversation. Like you have to make sure there's no silence, everything's rolling.
Yes.
It's more entertaining, and it's just it can become a lot.
What is the most important media outside of streaming that you have found to be the most significant?
I would have to say TikTok 100%. I feel as if people underlook TikTok in some aspects, and that's just because of the fact that you have to think. So the way the algorithm works that I've been able to tell is that it sends it out to about 100 people. And depending on your likes and comment ratio is when they decide to send it out to the next bigger pool. And then
That's right.
Depending on that, then it goes to the next level and the next level. The thing is, even if it's not a hit video, the likelihood of 100 people, like let's say seeing something on YouTube that you've never interacted with before compared to TikTok is so much greater. Like you're hitting such a bigger audience just posting something short, something sweet over on TikTok. I feel like that's something that you can't get anywhere else. I think the number one TikToker right now is Charlie D'Amelio, and she has like 100 million followers. That's 100 million people on TikTok that can potentially see your content. And it's one of those things that like you never know when it's going to rapid fire to the next person. I feel like it's underutilized for the streaming community, but whenever it is overutilized, it's for clips that need modified, if that makes sense, or like streamer tips.
YouTube Shorts are absolutely broken in my opinion. And I think that everyone needs to jump on that as soon as you can. It's like, just make your TikToks and produce them to YouTube Shorts.
But on top of that, you also have to think about the fact that watching a 20-second clip is 10 times easier than watching something that's like 7 minutes long. It may be something that's just enough for people to want to come and see more.
It's just like, produce the best stuff that you got, condense it, and get it out there and see how many people interact with it. And that's simply like where our world and media is going, and it just seems to be like a great way to capture an audience in front of you.
I think the other thing about the like creating things like shorts and TikToks, my personal opinion is that it's kind of like restarting something. You know, it's like starting your YouTube fresh. Like you don't 100% know what's going on, and you're still trying to like feel it out a little bit. Even if you're established on TikTok or on, I should say, on like Twitch or on YouTube, it's still one of those things though, is that like, since it's such a different platform, you have to try to figure out the algorithm. You have to try to figure out what people want to see, what jives well on that platform. It is kind of interesting though to see what works on Twitch may not also work on TikTok. Like you may have to alter it a little bit. You may have to do some things. It's interesting to see that like you kind of have to grow your content creation skill base just to go ahead and push something to those other contents or those other platforms.
These thought processes are constantly going on in your head about how can I produce better? You know, how can I produce more? Obviously remaining static in the social media realm or the content creation realm, it doesn't cut it in the long run. People are going to get bored. So how do you continue viewer engagement?
Which is so hard. I don't think people realize how difficult it is to try to figure that out.
Yes, that's exactly like the conversation that you had with your parents. It's sort of like they just don't understand until you start to explain it for hours. I feel like
I don't think a lot of people look at it in the aspect of, well, am I happy? Because I feel like happy is so much more important than money.
Yes.
Like, I would rather be happy making less money, still being able to survive, than to be making a whole bunch of money, not happy, and just hating everything I do.
You got to do it with careful judgment upon yourself to be able to not cross those boundaries to where your mental health is seriously suffering. Because like you had said earlier too, is with streaming, everyone talks about the games and how it's so fun and how you get to produce a community. But really, no one talks about the backhaul of it all. Is like, what if your followers dipped, or what if one of your streams had like 4 people, but your other stream had 100? And nobody talks about the struggle that it takes as a streamer to go through that, and to challenge yourself to be like, okay, no, what I'm doing is producing what I wanted to produce. I feel like more people start out as a streamer saying, I'm doing this for me, and then eventually get lost in the whole aspect of numbers. And that's something that you just have to get over as a streamer. It's a very challenging leap. I still struggle with that. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like any boundaries in my way, I can certainly get over if I put my mind to it and just reset. I think that it's very important to learn about acceptance in this world. Just accepting yourself for who you are. Because everyone, no matter what your intentions are in life, everyone is a beautiful person. At the end of the day, we're all just souls in this world, and we just have a body to live in. Everyone needs to be more accepting that this is your energy that you want to possess. Life is a journey of self-awareness. In my opinion, life isn't really about much. It's simply just about getting to know yourself and producing your best self and creating a legacy in this world. Maybe that's it. I don't really feel like I need to strive for anything better than myself. And I think that's society. In a society, I feel like a lot of us tend to try and go above and beyond what our energy creates.
It is 100% true, because it's one of those things that we worry way too much on impressing other people than what makes us happy type of thing. Sure, like getting a whole bunch of followers, sure, like having the best things ever, sure, that's going to impress somebody. Yeah. But if it's not making you happy, that's what matters. Like, screw that person. They're not the one at the end of the day laying down. That's not their life. I don't think people, like you said earlier, I don't think people look at the emotional aspects of it and like how it can actually affect you.
The more that you try to produce value for other people that don't really give a crap about you, the more that you're possessing energy outside of your own capability. And I think more people need to stop trying to impress others and to just produce what they can produce. Oh, well, that was a good talk.
No, it definitely was.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Do you have anything else before we end our stream today?
I don't think so. My cat's actually starting to try to get my attention, so I think he realizes what's going on. If you'd like, I can show him.
Yeah, please do.
I can tell he just woke up from a nap.
Aww.
His name is Sutton. He's always a terror, but he does keep things interesting, especially with streaming.
Great we could have this conversation. Thank you for being our 7th guest on the Java JUICECAST, and I hope to have many, many more like-minded individuals just like you.
And this is my first ever podcast, so honestly, it was really fun. I'm
cool.
Super excited to do it. So thank you so much for that opportunity.
I'm very glad to hear it. Yeah, we'll talk to you later.
All right, thank you so much, and have a great day, guys.
Thanks, Steph. See ya.